Hi everybody, thanks for stopping back by the channel, and I know it's been quite some time since I posted a video on this channel. I wanted to show my new acquisition, and as the title says, it's a Uberti 1861 Navy. And just to let everybody know, yes, it did come in a damaged box. Fortunately, there wasn't any damage to the revolver, but you can tell that something very heavy must have fallen on it, and somebody tore the side of the package at some point. So I just kind of wanted to do a simple review of my first impressions, and obviously, like most of the other revolvers everybody receives, out of the package they look pretty darn good. Some things that I've noticed as far as quality is the crown was cut very nicely. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but I'm pretty impressed with the crown. The chamfers in the cylinder face, very good, nice and evenly cut. So I'm impressed with that. Like every other revolver that everybody gets, you're expected to do a little bit of polishing, deburring, and for this particular revolver, I was expecting to do that. But what I'm about to express next, I did not expect. The channel, Guns of the Old West, Dustin Weinecker, had also received a new Uberti revolver. This was a Colt Dragoon. And what I saw him do, I experienced the same thing, only mine I think might have been a little worse than his. When he cocked his revolver back, he actually had to turn the cylinder by hand to unjam it. It's almost like something was binding up and preventing the cylinder to rotate without cocking the hammer all the way back. And he said it wasn't a big deal, and I expected the same thing. It's not a big deal. But on the third time that I went to go cock it back, I could obviously feel something was binding, and on the third time I cocked it back, the cylinder locked up tight. I couldn't turn it by hand. I could no longer cock the hammer to get it unbound. So obviously the problem was with the hand and spring. Let me take it apart here real quick and see if the camera can pick up what my problem was at the time. This hand right here that induces the cylinder to spin was so wide, so fat that it actually gouged the arbor, and that's what actually bound it up. So obviously I had to take the revolver apart, remove some metal, and get it so that it would work freely without binding up. And as most of you know that have taken these apart, the hand has just a little bit of a curve to it because the curve has got to clear the bottom of the channel right here. Well, that from the factory had some really bad chatter marks in it, and I also suspect that that was causing part of the problem. So I took some time, smoothed everything out, polished it, and got it to working very, very well. The other thing that I was a little disappointed in was that the timing was, in my opinion, very, very far off. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but when the bolt first hits the cylinder, it was hitting way back here. And I'm trying to point, I can see the peen in the sunlight here, and it was actually peening right here. And quite honestly, in my opinion, that's too far of a distance. I kind of suspect with the problems that this gun had, that it was put together on a Friday afternoon, late, just about quitting time. So I knew that I was going to have to work on the timing in this revolver. And once again, since I've got decades worth of experience in doing this, I knew exactly what needed to be done. I did not record it, but there's another YouTube channel out there. The title of the channel is Manny CA. He's got a really good video on tuning, timing, revolvers, and he specifically does one on a 58 Remington. Now, if you decide that you want to go and watch the video, keep in mind at the time of him filming that, he's saying that these hammers are about 20 bucks. Get another one, because you will mess it up. Well, I decided to check to see what the current price on the hammers were, and they're about 50 bucks. So I suggest going very, very slow. Do not rush the timing at all if you're going to do this. Have a Sharpie, because when you look at that hammer, there's a little cam on the hammer that the bolt rides on, and that's what actually actuates the bolt going up and down. If you use a Sharpie, put everything together and work the action several times, you'll see where the two surfaces are actually mating, and that's where you need to remove small quantities of metal. And the other thing that I would suggest that Manny doesn't put in his video is this. Just when you think you're right there, stop. Because what you'll want to accomplish is when you put the two surfaces back together, they will work and they will eventually wear into each other to where it becomes a very proper fit. I know the camera can't pick it up, but right now what I have is the bolt peening just on the edge of the bolt stop right here, just right there. So I've been able to make the adjustment from here to right there. And that's as far as I'm going to go with it, because when I cycle the action, there's 3 clicks. The third click, the trigger is falling into the groove on the hammer where the trigger needs to be. At the same time, the bolt drops into the stop. And see if you can just listen to this here real quick. And you can see it's locked right up. So there's 3 clicks. So the second click, the bolt is actually hitting just on the edge of the stop. And the third click, the bolt's engaging into the slot, into the stop, and the hammer, the trigger into the hammer. She's right there. And I'm very well pleased with that. I'm going to leave it right there. Although on my 1860 Army, I've actually got it down to 2 clicks. And I'm just going to leave everything right there. The other issue that I have with this particular firearm is because I've got small hands, small palms, holding it in my hand, it's very, very uncomfortable. It's almost like it's wanting to push my palm and allowing me to hold the gun at kind of a cock or kind of an angle a little bit. That's not a huge issue, because that would just require removing some more wood right here, with the exception that this is maple and it does have a very good fit. So in order for me to do this, I would have to remove this, get the stain, whatever Uberti uses to match the stain, and I don't think I'm going to be able to find that stain. In the meantime, I have ordered another grip from Dixie Gun Works. That'll take about a month to get here. And just a little side note, I know the camera's not going to pick it up, but as you as I run my finger across the base of the grip here, I can actually feel indentations. Once again, I think this was finished on a Friday. This side feels really smooth, feels great, but there is an indentation. Actually, there's two indentations right here. So the final sanding is, in my opinion, not up to par. One other quick point, as you can tell, it is maple. There is tiger stripe in here, which I really, really fancy. I do make knives. I do a lot of blacksmithing. As you can tell, I like working a lot with curly maple. So I really like the maple. In fact, on my GSG 1911-22, I replaced the grips. I made these grips with curly maple, so I really do favor the curly maple. But unfortunately, as I mentioned, matching the stain is going to be kind of difficult. So, like I said, I do have another grip coming for this. The other issue that I had with this particular revolver is one from the perspective of preventative maintenance. That spring, that's the trigger bolt spring. It's extremely rough. It's very sharp. It's got square edges, and I could only guess in a very short amount of time that spring would break. It's very thin. It's just subpar. I do have a spare wolf spring that's made out of the piano wire, and I'm electing not to use that because I've had this one in my 1860 Army, and for my liking, the trigger pull is way too light. I actually put this spring into this revolver just to see if the trigger pull was light, and it still is. So what I did is I happen to have some old saw blades in my shop. This is actually spring steel, and I was able to make another spring identical to the one that came with the revolver. This saw blade stock actually measured out 2/1000ths of an inch thicker than this spring, than the factory spring, and it turned out very well and works very well. Maybe sometime in the future I might post a video making a spring from this, because a lot of it obviously has to do with the tempering. So I'm very pleased with the firearm the way it is right now. Unfortunately, here in New Mexico, we're having some weather that's not the greatest for outdoor shooting. The microphone on this particular camera is very sensitive to wind, so I'm going to try to wait till I get a very calm morning, get out, and we'll see where this revolver prints. But anyhow, that's the revolver, my new acquisition. Other than having to do what little work that I had to do, and I say little, in my opinion it was a lot of work, but I think it's going to be well worth it. One other thing you might want to keep in mind, I don't know if the camera's going to quite pick it up, but to get this revolver ready for the range, I did flatten out the top so that I'd have a straight line of sight instead of a curved one. I also beveled the front sight just a little bit. But what I discovered is that the sight is actually brass. I don't know if the camera can pick that up as easily as I can see it here, but it is brass painted black. And the other thing that I also did to get ready for the range is I actually widened the sight, the front sight, just a little bit, and I actually filed it down a little bit deeper, anticipating this to shoot a little high. And when I did that, I went ahead and filed a little longer groove right here. Doesn't serve any function other than it's just, to me, it's a little more eye-pleasing. So anyhow, I want to thank everybody for watching, and just to give you a little heads up of what I'm planning on doing with this channel here throughout the course of the summer. As the previous video I did showed my new Pieta 1858 Remington. I actually have 3 cylinders for that particular revolver. In one cylinder I have purposely left loaded, and it's been loaded for 2 years now. So it is my game plan to get out and see, one, if it'll shoot sitting that long in my closet, and number 2, to see what kind of penetration we can get with it. I don't have a chronograph, so I don't know if the feet per second is affected by leaving it in the closet for that long, but we will find out. So I hope that you will join me on those occasions, and I hope you will join me on the occasion when I take this out to the range, and we'll see where it prints and what further I'll have to do to make it a superior cap and ball revolver. So once again, thanks for watching, and hopefully it won't be another 2 years before I post another video. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye.